We have to get. I think he's. Yeah.
The other one.
Yeah.
किसी volunteer को बोले लाने Should we ask somebody to go?
Yeah.
We are waiting for Professor Ainul Nishad to come. I think he is in the other room for another conference.
Can you find out how long? So we are waiting for Professor Ainul Nishad. But while doing so, we have the Honorable Minister, State Minister of Planning, His Excellency Professor Shamsul Alam amongst us, and Dr. Uttam Sinha, Distinguished Fellow ITSA. I just wanted to sort of come in here unexpectedly, just to make up, because out of this entire NADI conference, this is a session that we were really excited about, because the whole point is also to think for the future, and water is such a subject that the timeline is, what we think is short is not so short. So 100 years from now, or not even 100 years, 2100 is actually not so far away in terms of the challenges we face. We have amongst us the person in Bangladesh, I think, who sort of knows the most about it, Professor Shamsul Alam, and as Bangladesh takes this Delta plan forward, we also in India, we have plans afoot. So I think one of the objectives of this forum is also to sort of synergize on visions, understand on that. And of course, we also have Professor Ainul Nishad, who is one of the foremost water experts in Bangladesh, most respected authorities. He's negotiated several treaties, several of the events. So while we are still waiting for him, I think we'll just hand it over to Dr. Uttam Sinha now to take it forward.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Uttam Sinha, and I'm at the World Health Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. And I'm in conversation with the Honorable Minister, Shamsul Alam, for me face you and speak. And of course, later on, Professor Ainul Nishad will be joining in. and we will be discussing Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100. A good conversation, Honorable Minister, you would agree, encourages a lot of exploration of contexts, which is very important when we have a plan like this. It also helps us to look at the planning process and also the decision making exercise that Bangladesh has taken. So, some of my questions would be naturally directed. I have often expressed Bangladesh as geographically as a double whammy, a double jeopardy, so to speak. And yet, remarkably, in the last 50 years, uh, the successes that Bangladesh has seen in terms of its economic growth, in terms of all the indicators, the human indicators that it has achieved, is quite extraordinary. And one is reminded of what Henry Kissinger said 50 years ago at the time of Bangladesh independence, that Bangladesh is nothing but a bottomless bucket. And I think Bangladesh is completely the statement of Kissinger wrong. But as a low riparian in Bangladesh, yes, sir, I'm just introducing. So we have Professor Ali Rashad, everyone knows, and the privilege of interacting with him on several occasions, both in Bangladesh. And as I was saying, Bangladesh being double jeopardy country in terms of being a lower riparian, receiving several rivers, 57 rivers, almost about 92% of its water comes from transboundary. Obviously makes it a very vulnerable country in a certain sense. But also as a low-lying coastal country, we see that the sea level rises are going to cause enormous challenges. That's about it. Amrita, you would like to please, as I said, that's a country that experiences sea level rise, 8 meters or 20 millimeters a year, which is well above the global average. There are serious concerns, therefore, in Bangladesh. So the delta, the Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna delta, yes, is the I think is also the most cyclone prone region, and with the tidal surges, inundation, it poses enormous challenges in development. So given the risks and the vulnerabilities of impact, uh, it is what we as thought about zero. And in terms of policy planning, this long reach 2100 actually, I can't imagine any leader who compete. Barring, of course, Mao in 1952 in China, before 100 years of development. I don't think there's any policy that looked at such a long-term target. So I think that's quite unique. And it has going through it. It says the best is the future generation by the country. It almost reminds you of the frontline remote in 1987. I think the Prime Minister rightly said that it moves Bangladesh forward the next 100 years. So, Honorable Minister, and I would like to ask is how realistic is this? Is it really too ambitious? Something that in a certain period of time people will forget about? Uh, you know, there are some questions. And what is what the Bangladesh to do? But to about some doomsday about Bangladesh. So all doomsday is wrong since our independence in the last 50 years. We have come a quite long way, leaving the stigma of basket case and so on and so forth. Anyway, uh, I'll come direct to the point discussion.
Bangladesh certainly achieved milestone targets in many cases. If I say, we become lower middle income country on 1 June 2015. We twice fulfill the criteria, threshold criteria to be a graduating country, living the stigma of a least developed country. So many milestone targets we achieved so far. And why we have to have a 100-year plan? That's a big question. And in 21st century, Bangladesh is a unique country who have 100-year plan. So it's really unique in that sense. But we have to follow planning path. In our constitution clause 15C said or stated that Bangladesh should follow a planned path of growth. So we are bound to follow planned path of growth. That means we have to go with 5-year planning cycle. Unless we resign that clause, we can't leave the 5-year planning system. But anyway, why we have gone to a 100-year plan? That's a big question. Bangladesh, as you also referred to, is one of the disaster-prone country in the world. One of the 7th position, perhaps, according to IPCCR report 6, 7th position out of 10 disaster-prone countries in the world. So climate change is a long-term issue, and it can't be resolved within 5 years or 10-year planning. So it is a long-term phenomenon, and to understand climate change impact, we need a long time to understand. So to face the challenges of long-term problem, we have to have a long-term plan. That's why we have a 100-year plan. That's the first point I must make clear. So what is there in the 100-year plan? As I said, we need to have a 100-year plan because climate change issue is a long-term issue. To understand climate change problem, we have to wait for 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years to see some change. Anyway, using Bangladesh data, Bangladesh meteorological data, we found that since 1901 to 2016, our temperature has risen 0.80 degrees Celsius. So it's not no more hoax that temperature will rise. Actually, it has risen in Bangladesh. With decadal, study of variance, we found that climate rainfall variability has increased. So those are really happening, and we have river erosion, as you referred to. We have saline water intrusion. We have flooding. All these natural hazards Bangladesh is facing. So to handle all these climate change adverse impacts, we devised a 100-year plan. 100-year plan meaning we make it with different phases, composed it of different phases. First phase up to 2030. Then with the experiences of implementation, with the changing information and with changing data, having new data, with new knowledge, we'll revise it after 10 years. So it's a dynamic plan in that sense, not a static one that 100 years it will remain fixed. No, not at all. For the first 12 years, it was approved in our National Economic Council in 1918, September 1918, and 2030 in the middle way, after completion of 8th 5-year plan, say around 2025, we'll be revising it again. So, and we prepared it, seeing the climate hotspots in the country. We observed 6 hotspots in the country according to climatological characteristics, hydrological characteristics. Those 6 hotspots are, as I can refer to you, coastal zone, facing tidal surge and salinity intrusion. Then second hotspot is barren and drought-prone areas in the northern part of Bangladesh. It was something like having some arid characteristics, but not nowadays. It's more green than before. But it has a specific problem of scanty rainfall and so on and so forth. We have hour and flash flood areas, and the fourth hotspot is Chiran hill tracts. The different elevation of soils. Our 12% land is a bit elevated lands, and rest floodplains. And river system estuaries, another hotspot, and urban areas. So we identified climate problems, climatological problems in these areas, and then based on those problems, we devised strategies to handle those problems and suggested some measures. So in brief, that is the whole focuses of our Delta plan. Delta plan is water-centric plan, water resources management plan basically, and it will see how natural resources are managed, not degrading those natural resources, productive resources that we said. We will ensure water security for the people, food security for the people, maintaining our ecological setting as intact as possible. So that is the main features of our Bangladesh Delta plan.
It's a very interesting point what the plan mentions, the hotspot being the drought-prone zone of Bangladesh. Often we get the impression that Bangladesh is a flood-prone country. And I know Professor Nishat often talks about the drought-centered approach that we need to take attention to in Bangladesh. And therefore my question to you, Professor, is that it does take care of many of the hot zones that has been defined in the plan itself. And as the Honorable Minister said, it is flexible, it can adapt itself to some of the changes, some of the emergency that might arise. But there's one thing that probably Bangladesh Action Plan would need to look at, and that is that the Delta is also shared by India. And I know you don't like the word sharing, especially when it comes to water resources. You talk more about joint management, joint development. Here is the classic case with the deltas, where Bangladesh and India can have a joint approach, can have a joint planning. Would this plan in the future take into account India as well?
Thank you. Uttamji, you very rightly said that I don't like this sharing business. And I would like to go for joint management, co-management as far as possible. In fact, I just moved from the room next door. And there, still discussion is going on, and very interesting. They are discussing Meghna Basin, and now they are debating. I was picked up from that room. They were debating how to pick up a small sub-basin and go for pilot type activity. And that would fit on very well with the national level, whole delta level activity. So that is the micro level work. And now I am talking about the macro level work. In both rooms, the main trigger or the main driving issue is climate change. You are very right. When we met earlier, I told you possibly that everybody talks about Bangladesh and talks about flood. They forget about drought. I like to draw your kind attention. 2021 was a drought year for Bangladesh. We didn't have sufficient rainfall in the peak of monsoon. We had good rainfall, but not enough. Therefore, I jokingly say, and the seasons are changing. A country that had 6 distinct seasons has been converted into 4 distinct seasons. Last year, the spring was missing. And I jokingly say, if Tagore was alive today, he used to have rewrite his songs because those 6 seasons are not valid. You have to write 4 seasons. Having said that, you asked the question about this 100-year, the rationale of 100-year. What I would like to tell you, I do not believe a 100-year plan is possible in water sector. But then how do I support the National Delta Plan 2100 is not the 100-year activity plan, is not the 100-year physical intervention plan, is the 100-year what we plan to do. And if we quickly go through the history of water management in Bangladesh, it was the right time when we switched gear and changed our direction. In the 40s and the 50s and 60s, flood was the main issue. In fact, if you want me to identify some trigger or some of the points which led to creation of Bangladesh, there could be many events identified, but one event would be 1956 flood resulting famine, when the then Pakistan government fired on the Bhuka missile, the hungry people were coming. And the government in Islamabad or Karachi in those days immediately handed over power to who are now in power in the countries, Awami League. Sarwardi is brought in as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Historians have forgotten. It was that particular event resulted into total change in power structure in the country. Now, from that day, government was pushing for flood management. UN General Assembly had appointed a committee called Krug Mission, and that resulted into a master plan in 1964. That's the first master plan, where the focus was on flood management. Interestingly, in the Delta Plan, still today, flood is the main focus, was one of the main focus. Reason is very,
But
otherwise
we have identified the drought zone.
also drought prone, because flood kills almond or kharif too. Prior to 1972, that was the main crop. So the next water plan was prepared in 72 by World Bank that focused on the dry season crop, more on drought, focused on groundwater use. So today we have 70% of the country, 75% of the country covered with irrigation facilities based on groundwater. 80% of the country, some kind of protection against flood with flood dikes. Result is, from 4 million metric ton in 1947, we produced, Honorable Minister may correct me, 38 million metric ton. Think of, country has lost land due to urbanization and others. So it was a combination of 1964 master plan and 1972 land and water use plan based on which the country was running. Then we had a plan in 1986, 1992, 1995, 2002. All were based on the same principle. But what we needed, pay attention to environment, pay attention to ecology, pay attention to fisheries, pay attention to water quality, pay attention to demand of water for industry is coming. That is going to be the next crisis. Pay attention to water supply and sanitation. Pay attention to navigation. And I talked about fish. Flood and drought and riverbank erosion are there. So we needed to have a fresh look, and that is what the Delta Plan does. And that is why these 6 principles and those things are there. But interestingly, the whole trigger or whole event happened in Netherlands. They had a big flood in 2007 or 8, unusual heavy rainfall. And that thing is happening both in India and Bangladesh. Would you believe, Uttamji, this year we didn't have any problem in distributing the Ganges water, because there was so much rainfall in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh towards the late part of monsoon. The flow was more than sufficient to meet the demand of both the country, but which is not good. At the late part of monsoon, if you have too much flood, that's bad. But for Ganges water problem, that was good. So point I'm trying to make is, my understanding of Delta Plan 2100 is, it will be a sequential plan based on the principles initiated already. Urban drainage is coming as a big problem. Climate change is coming as a big problem. Coastal erosion is coming as a big problem. And in the climate change plan, what we are now doing, I have just finished preparing the National Adaptation Plan 3 days back, is now on the website. And the National Mitigation Plan we completed in December is on the website. Anybody can have a look at it. Both were guided by the Prime Minister, and she gave one instruction which caught my attention. She said, recommend something that is doable and recommend something that you monitor regularly, maybe 5 years interval, and show me that you have implemented it. We can have wonderful plan which will collect dust in the shelf. So that is the beauty of the NAB document, or that is the beauty of the Delta plan. Is being updated now, this is being polished now. And in the climate change, what we are doing is, in 2021, we are projecting 2030, 25 will project up to 35, 30 will project up to 40. So 10-year projection, but review every 5 years. So that kind of review mechanism has to be built in, and I am confident the Delta plan is doing that. So 100-year is a notional, vision. We have a long vision, but implementation would be step by step.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which again, brings me to the question of India. Almost 10 years, little more than a decade ago, we signed the Memorandum of Understanding on the Sundarbans. And that is a very important ecoregion of the entire Delta, India, Bangladesh. So, closer, okay. So, where does this fit into in the future with India? Because it is a shared region. It is a very vulnerable ecoregion. It has immense biodiversity. There are about 7.5 million people residing in Sundarban across both the borders. So does it not at some point of time would require the participation of India also in the Delta plan?
Of course, in the Delta plan, what Dr. Anunusha said, all the issues were addressed by section or by paragraphs in detail, as much as possible at that time what we had at that time, the data or information. Anyway, about the international participation, certainly we emphasized, if I say briefly, basin-wide development, basin-wide Brahmaputra basin or Ganga basin, like that. So basin involves a couple of countries, particularly India, Bangladesh is very much, with this basin-wide development target. So there we said, while we will be dealing with Jamuna River, we will go with Jamuna. If we start with Jamuna Economic Corridor, suddenly we alone cannot think of using the Jamuna because international river. So we would seek cooperation of India and other upper European countries if necessary. If only dredging is not the problem. Dredging is big way out of the problem, no doubt. But if rivers we can make navigable, then we can have transportation, water transportation. We can, with the dredged soil, we can make townships, new townships. So new growth centers can be created. Particularly with India, we clearly specified that we need cooperation between India and Bangladesh. But at this token, I would say at this point, your honorable your foreign minister said bilaterally he talked what India did with Nepal, with Bhutan, with Bangladesh, with Myanmar, how they had cooperation in terms of building riverine transportation, so on and so forth. So I think to handle the river issue, it would be better we talk about all the countries related. Like, Mekong River, Mekong Delta, 5 countries are involved, they talk together, sit together. Still, though China dominates in every aspect, as I understand from them, but they sit together. So about Brahmaputra, it originates from China, passing through Bhutan and so on and so forth, India, Bangladesh. So it's a mighty river and longest river in this region. So I would be thinking it would be better if we can talk together about the use of this river for navigation, for transportation, for silt management, whatsoever. You see, if we only dredge Indian part in the Brahmaputra, each India does not dredge each year, then many of the sediments would come to Bangladesh. Say again, India dredge and we dredge, then it will be easier for Bangladesh and even easier for India, because water flow will be much. Many sediments would go to Bangladesh if it is deep in India, and we also dredge. Then it will be common for water. We can establish water transportation easily. Once the dredgers stay in Assam, and in the dry season they after dredging pass through Bangladesh. It's in the British period. Then after liberation, somehow or other those were transformed to somehow they are used for some other reason. I don't know why. So it needs international cooperation. Even Indus is a long history. Your industry is with Pakistan. Actually, World Bank mediated that negotiation. That means that was tripartite, not bilateral. So to resolve all these international issues, particularly rivers, we need multilateral approach. It's my understanding. And it would save money, it would save time, it will give better results than only bilateral. Bilateral needed, of course, partly, but to solve it in a wholesome way, in the long term, we need all the riverine countries should sit together and see how Bhutan can be benefited, how Bhutan we can connect with navigation and transportation and all this. So that would be my suggestion. In the Delta, actually particularly emphasized basin-wide development.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We've run out of time. We had only half an hour to... quick point, Professor?
Yeah, can I quickly supplement?
Very quickly.
Okay, very quickly. I take 2 points. Your first question was, can you do something about the Sundarban, which is a shared ecosystem? I think since 2011, when the 2 prime ministers met, their joint declaration has at least 1 paragraph, what to do about Sundarban, develop it jointly. Now here is a big difference in the ground situation between India and Bangladesh, which Indian side must understand. 60% of the original Sundarban is in Bangladesh, 40% in India. Now the 60% that is in Bangladesh is still a complete, fully pristine forest land in Bangladesh. There has not been any encroachment. But on the Indian side, 1/3 has been totally urbanized, including part of Calcutta city is inside Sundarban. 1/3 is habitated. So rest 1/3 roughly is pristine Sundarban, which is in better condition than Bangladesh Sundarban. So in India, they are pushing for ecotourism. But for us, we are not ready to allow settlements inside Bangladesh. People may go enjoy the nature, ecotourism, but live in the boat and come back. That is what we are practicing. Yes, we need collaboration over there, especially to help the ecosystem to flourish. And definitely both sides must understand, because if we say, get your people away from Sundarban, it's not possible because they're there. You have 3 members of parliament coming from the Sundarban constituency. Second point is on navigation. Now this morning we heard Honorable Minister from India who talked about the navigation, the Indo-Bangladesh joint protocol connecting Patna to Pandu through Ganges and Brahmaputra. Now here, I would very humbly like to suggest, what do you do? It can be improved. From Patna, the first vessel moved, I think, about 6 weeks back. And it was in Bangladeshi newspaper, a very small newspaper. An honorable editor is sitting there. I'm getting scared. Maybe in his newspaper, he gave a bigger space to that. Now the boat came from Patna, came to Farakka. Now you have built a big log gate at Farakka. So it comes to Farakka to Bhagirathi, comes to Calcutta, comes to Sundarban, inside Bangladesh, comes up to Ashuganj, or from Chandpur it comes to Ganges River, Meghna River, Podda River, and then Brahmaputra, go to Guwahati or Pandu, wherever you want to go. But why can you not come from Farakka to Aricha straight away, hardly 50, 60 kilometers? That route needs to be developed. That route needs to have water. So if India would like to have navigation from Patna to Pandu through Ganges and Brahmaputra, I would plead with Bangladesh that Bangladesh should give full-hearted support to that, because that would solve all the environmental questions of Bangladesh, the fish migration question of Bangladesh. The Hilsha would freely move from Chandpur to Patna. I was in a seminar in Patna and I was asked a question, why we cannot get Hilsha in Patna? I said, because you stop it at Farakka. So if we have navigation straight away, instead of traveling all the way, similarly, we heard this morning, I didn't know about it, your Sagarmala program, connecting all the coastal belt. So similarly, your coastal network may be connected with my coastal network. So Mongla to Paira to Chittagong, Bhola, and so that could be very good coastal navigation route. So we have a lot of things. Uttamji, you know my favorite issue. Let us develop jointly. Thank you very much.
True, that's a very powerful expression in terms of the bilateral relation. I could really ask so many questions, including the Ganga Barrage, but I'll leave that for another day, and maybe we can talk privately. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and Professor, for being in conversation and speaking frankly and candidly on a very important issue and a very important plan that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, kindly hold back for a minute. We have a small round of felicitations to take place. I see our Executive Director, Sabyasachi Datta here. Sir, kindly come up onto the dais to felicitate the distinguished panel. Maybe now stand together for a group photograph. Sabyasachi, please. Yeah. Thank you so much.
हेल्प करना है ना करें ना We will now continue with the next session, which is a conversation on the Jal Shakti mission and water governance in India, a vision for the future. Participating in this is Mr. Bharat Lal, Secretary, Lokpal, India, in conversation with Dr. Nilanjan Ghosh, Director, ORF, Kolkata.
A very good evening to all of you, and welcome to the session on Jal Jeevan Mission and Water Governance in India: Vision for the Future. And I'm elated to have Mr. Bharat Lal, Secretary Lokpal India, who recently relinquished his position as the Additional Secretary and Mission Director of the Jal Jeevan Mission. And as you know, that the Ministry of Jal Shakti was formed under the present dispensation in May 2019. And this was formed by merging two ministries, the Ministry of Water Resources, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation, and the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. So this also marks a clear departure from the previous thinking or the age-old thinking that water need to be looked at in silos by various ministries. Rather, this marks a departure or rather movement towards a more holistic paradigm. That means we need to have a more integrated perspective of governance as far as this critical resource is concerned. So from that perspective, of course, one of the critical missions that was launched here was the Jal Jeevan Mission. And some of the key issues that have been addressed was in the context of drinking water and sanitation. And Mr. Bharat Lal was spearheading that particular mission for in its initial years. So my first question to you, Mr. Lal, is why don't you provide a perspective on the objectives, the goals and objectives of this mission, and also the benefits, as also some of the key achievements that have been achieved in the initial stages of this mission.
Thank you, Nilanjan. Dr. Good evening, everyone. Indeed, it's a privilege to be here and sitting with you all, sharing one of the flagship program, one of the finest mission which has been launched by Government of India in 2019. And it's, as Dr. Nilanjan has said, let me give some perspective, some few very important data. In 1951, per capita freshwater availability was more than 5,000 cubic meter per person in India, which has reduced to, in 2014, to roughly 1,500 cubic meter. And as you know that population is increasing, economic activity is expanding, lifestyle changing. So there is a chance, and we have seen, I'll explain you how, there is a chance that paucity of water can become a limiting factor in our socio-economic development and economic growth. In a country like ours in India, where basically more than 40% area falls in arid and semi-arid region, if water story is not put in place properly, I think forget about economic growth, even basic socio-economic development, basic quality of life can get affected. And allow me to give one example in Gujarat, because that is my cadre where I work. In 1999-2000, GDP growth was 1.2%. And in 2000-2001, it was minus 4.9%. And one of the important reasons was continuous 3 years drought in Gujarat. So I think, and most of you know that present Prime Minister, Honorable Shri Narendra Modi, he became Chief Minister Gujarat on October 2001. And that time the state was reeling under drought, post-earthquake, this kind of problem, and economic growth. The economy was in totally tatters. So in this context, and imagine that Sustainable Development Goal, I mean, we all know that it has been set up, and we feel that by 2030 we'll achieve. And out of 17 goals, 11 goals are linked with drinking, with water. So in India in 2019, only 16.5% household in villages had pipe water supply. Out of 19.3 crore, 193 million rural household, only 32 million rural household had tap water supply. And as Honorable Prime Minister decided since 2014 that each and every family has to have better quality of life, whether it's housing or electricity or toilet or tap water supply or cooking gas or social security or healthcare. So as a part of the bigger narrative, Jal Jeevan Mission was launched on 15th August 2019 to ensure clean tap water to every family. No one is left out. The most important part is that no one is left out, whether caste, creed, religion, area, nothing. Each and every family by 2024 has to have clean access to clean tap water supply. And this is the objective, and you can see the scale. Out of 193 million household, only 32 million household had tap water supply. It means every year, more than 32 million household have to be provided this kind of infrastructure, and that too in 5 years. So, as Dr. Niranjan said that this program was launched, Honorable Prime Minister announced it from Red Fort on 15th August 2019. And the good part is that in the last 2.5 years, fairly good progress has taken place. Today, more than 96 million households are having tap water supply, more than 50%. From 16.5 to 50%, we have already reached in 2.5 years. It has other aspects, whether it's a transparency or governance, and I think in due course I'll let you know. But important thing is that each and every household has to have access to clean water so that the whole family, their lifestyle, their quality of life improves, public health improves, and especially girls and women, because it's their responsibility to fetch water. I think their life improves. So that is the context where basically we are working.
So in terms of numbers, suppose just as you set the target that it's 2024, every household is going to have tap water supply and access to clean water. So by 2021, now that you've just relinquished your position in 2022, so by now, what has been the achievement?
See, as we all know that COVID has certain impact in last 2 years. But we have a plan that every year almost 32 million households should be added, should be having access to clean water. And kindly don't forget that when we say that tap water connection to a family, it means starting from source development to infrastructure development, overhead tank, supply line, household connection, everything. Plus preparing people basically to carry out this kind of work on such a scale. And that too with speed, it means skilling. Means preparation of masons, plumber, electrician, motor mechanic, pump operator. These are the second aspect. And third and most important part is that the village community has to be prepared. This is not simply a water supply program. Idea is that through this program, we can improve governance. So in every village, a village water committee, water and sanitation committee has to be formed. Its capacity is to be improved. Keeping this in mind, first and foremost, we started that wherever any kind of water supply system exists, it has to be upgraded and it has to be made functional for next 30 to 40 years. So 3-4 important milestones have been achieved. Number one, that from 16.5% to more than 50% household have been covered as on date, number one. Number two, out of 703 rural districts, 108 districts, each and every household has been provided tap water connection. Out of 6 lakh villages, 1,60,000 villages have been provided connection. During pandemic, we realized that we just can't wait for tap water supply to whole village. So schools and Anganwadi centers have been given priority. And we started a campaign to make provision of clean tap water in every school and every Anganwadi center on priority. So as of now, roughly 81% schools and 78% Anganwadi center have clean tap water supply. Similarly, water quality affected habitations. As we all know that all these, river basins, whether it's a Ganges or Brahmaputra or Mekong, arsenic is one of the problems. In southern India and western India, fluoride is one of the bigger issues. So these water quality affected habitation, either permanent arrangement or to provide water purification plants so that each and every family at a rate of 8 to 10 liter per person per day they can get. Another part what we have done that the Prime Minister has announced 3 years back, that 4 years back actually, that our district are low developmental index districts have been identified and they are known as aspirational district. So these 118 aspirational districts have been given priority. In these districts, against the national average of 16.5% coverage with clean tap water, here the coverage was only 7%. So in these aspirational districts, we have improved the coverage from 7% to roughly 46%. And in what we call Japanese encephalitis acquired encephalitis syndrome, JEAS affected district, which we have got 61 districts in 5 states, their tap water coverage was only 2.75% in 2019. And in these districts, tap water supply has reached to 47% as on date. Moreover, to ensure transparency, there is a dashboard, and I request you kindly visit this dashboard, JJM, Jal Jeevan Mission dashboard, and you will find the live data. Yesterday, in which village, how many family, and what is the name of the family, head of the family, has been given connection, that data is already there. And sensor-based IoT devices is being installed so that you can know that live timing, quantity, and quality of water supply is available on this dashboard. And who's the pump operator in that village? Who is the head of that village? His or her name, phone number, all details are given. This data has not been put, phone number has not been in public domain, but the system is that we just call the person and one can check. Lastly, what we have also done, I think allow me to just elaborate one very small point. Today, if you want to get your blood sample tested, you can get it tested like within few hours. Even if you want to get COVID tested, I think 4 or 5 hours you can get the result. But in your district, in your area, suppose you want to get your water tested, next impossible. Next impossible. You can't get your water tested. And imagine what a hilarious situation. The tap water which comes to my house, the supplier claims that it is clean, one can drink from tap. But I don't have faith. So I don't drink from tap. I put a RO plant. Imagine in power supply, input voltage and output voltage you can find out. That yes. But in that RO plant, it requires just few hundred rupees. But we don't put input quality of water and output quality of water. So it's a matter of faith that why I have installed a RO plant, this water, whatever I am coming out of this thing, it is pure, I can drink it. We have not thought that we should empower people that you can test glucose at home. You can test pregnancy at home. But why water cannot be tested at home? Why we can't develop portable domestic water testing devices? And we're happy to note that last year we launched, despite COVID, we launched a campaign, we launched a kind of competition, basically, with the Startup of India. And such 6-7 devices have been developed. I think very soon they are going to be in market. These devices are having basically SIM or Bluetooth provision. You pour water, see the data and upload on the system. Like you might have seen that during COVID, whatever test is taking place on ICMR database, the test result comes in, You'll get the report. Suppose you have given the sample, you'll get the report on email or whatever, WhatsApp and all this thing. This also goes on database. It also goes to district administration for remedial action. Similar arrangement has been done that any individual can get his or her water tested in more than 2030 laboratories we have started in the country, where anybody can go and give sample, and at very nominal rate you will get your report. This data will be uploaded and remedial action is to be taken. And this data is in public domain. Yesterday, how many samples have been collected, how many tested? and how many have not, not complied with, non-performing, you will get that data online. That. So this kind of, arrangement is being made under Jal Jeevan Mission to ensure transparency, to ensure that quality of water, whatever we drink, it should be, Moreover, we are also developing and already developing. In fact, in every village, 5 women are being trained. And so far, 10 lakh women have been trained. If 5 women are being trained and they are giving water quality testing kits, they can test water, basically basic testing, whether it has the right pH, TDS, chlorine, all other residues, and they can upload the data. And they concerned public health agent is supposed to take action. So this is the Prime Minister vision that, people have to be empowered. They should know the quality of water. There has to be transparency so that the responsible people should take remedial action. And if remedial action is not taken, the whole data shifts to public grievance addressal system where basically senior officers are supposed to, So Jal Jeevan Mission is not simply like $51 billion project for infrastructure development. No. Jal Jeevan Mission is basically a transformational program. Basically, it is addressing the governance. It is addressing the governance. And imagine, whole money has to be spent by Village Water and Sanitation Committee, which has 15 members. Out of that, more than 50% have to be women. And imagine if a village committee with 50% women and 25% representation to weaker section of society, they implement this kind of program in the village. Imagine their empowerment, their confidence. So today is a water and sanitation. Tomorrow it could be education. It could be health. It's an ever-expanding program. Lastly, to empower them, to ensure that they are able to operate, maintain, and manage these systems, 15th Finance Commission, which is basically valid for up to 2025-26 for 5 years actually, 1,42,000 crore rupees. And in 1920, 30,000 crore rupees. So total roughly 172,000 crore rupees, roughly $20+ billion has been provided to these rural local bodies, panchayat, for operation and maintenance, which means roughly 12 lakh rupees. So this kind of enabling provision is being made so that the Gandhiji's vision, Gram Swaraj, that the village becomes basically truly a self-governing body. Means infrastructure is there, training is there, their capacity building is there. In fact, we have engaged roughly 13,000 NGOs or self-help group who are helping the village community in basically empowering them, training them, reorienting them, in carrying out these activities. And idea is that the village people should be in position to decide the use of resources. That the water basically which is available, they want to utilize for agriculture purpose, horticulture purpose, or they want to keep it reserved for drinking water purpose. So that is the vision under Jal Jeevan Mission, for which we are working.
So quite evidently it's covering various other SDGs. It's not merely in fact confined to one specific SDG of clean water and sanitation. So, but you also mentioned about its the other aspects, other sectoral uses of water in terms of agriculture and other things. Now, here, if I look at the various other missions that are already existing, even prior to the formation of the ministry, one happens to be, of course, the NMCG, National Mission for Clean Ganga. Then we have this groundwater conservation mission, that is the Atal Bhujal Yojana. I mean, this mission is moving on its own, but there's no point forming an integrated ministry if they are working independently, right? So are they working in consonance? Is there a better integration or better complementarity in terms of water-related projects with the formation of the MOJS, Ministry of Jal Shakti? It's a question more on the governance aspect of things.
See, as I said, I think in country, one sincere effort is being made that water should become everyone's business. I think there should be more awareness about water by each and every individual. Kindly appreciate that in India, roughly, I'm giving overall national average, 85% water is consumed by agriculture sector. Roughly 10% by industry and 5% by drinking water. And in social media, in newspaper, on TV, you will always listen if there is a shortage of drinking water even in very small amount. But just imagine water use efficiency. If in agriculture sector, even 5%, 10% area is brought under micro irrigation, I mean, almost 70% water can be saved. So that much of water becomes available for industry and for domestic and, this drinking water purpose. So idea behind Jal Jeevan Mission, about Jal Shakti, has been that bring all water related subject under one ministry, whether it's a resource or it's a consumption, means what demand, supply, all aspect. Moreover, I think this audience very well aware, but allow me to repeat it. Water is a finite resource. Whatever water we get, I mean, we know the basic, water cycle. Whatever water we get through precipitation, whether rainfall or in higher Himalayas through snowfall, this water need to be stored, used judiciously. If this has to be achieved, it means it has to be done through an integrated manner. And by formation of Jal Shakti, this has been achieved. And second thing, what has been done, that water and sanitation has become part of public health since last 2 years for budget purpose and for, So there has been clear-cut linkages. I think each and every individual here sitting knows very well that jaundice or hepatitis can take place because of this water. So if we know it, so it means the whole country, every individual, every family, every child has to know. So it means there has to be linkage for public health. There has to be some kind of monitoring. It means integrated disease surveillance program and water quality. These two data has to speak to each other. So through this ministry, whether it's a groundwater management or it's a river rejuvenation or cleaning and, addressing the pollution problem in rivers and lakes and ponds or aquifer mapping, because we know that, see, today, if you want to construct new big dams, it's next to impossible because of environmental factor and anthropogenic factor. But demand has been tripled or 4 times it has gone. In fact, recent times, only 2 dams have been constructed, Terry Dam and Sardar Sarovar Dam, and everybody is here aware what kind of challenges it faced. And recently, one dam construction is going on, is Polavaram Dam in Andhra Pradesh. So it means whatever dams are there, whatever reservoirs are there, it has to be used efficiently. It means storage has to improve, storage efficiency has to be brought. How it can be brought? It means that dam has to be strengthened. It means desilting has to take place. It means in those areas, especially drought-prone and desert area, if dams and reservoirs are there, every year in Gujarat, I can share the data. In Gujarat, and my colleague from this place, Mr. Vijay Chauthaiwala, is sitting here. In Gujarat, there is 3/4 part of the state, Saurashtra, Kutch and North Gujarat. Every year, only 24% capacity of these reservoirs was basically utilized or filled. Imagine you have constructed the big dam or big reservoir, but it's not getting filled. So what has, by formation of this committee, this approach has come that integration has to take place. In Gujarat, what we did, that from South Gujarat, surplus water started being transferring, and all these 104 reservoirs are filled every year. In fact, twice every year, it's being filled. I mean, if Gujarat, agricultural growth has been in double digit, more than 10%, is not like some jadoo ki chhadi. Jadoo ki chhadi is this thing, that water availability has been increased to this extent. Imagine dairy. When we provide water, fodder and water is available for cattle. So obviously productivity will go. In area like Kutch, which was earthquake affected, today you go, you will find all vegetables are grown there and exported, Mango and, dates and other fruits are being exported from that place to Middle East and, this kind of, this thing. 20% areas in Gujarat, Mr. Modi launched this program as Chief Minister. The Gujarat Green Company was started that micro irrigation has to be promoted. So 20% irrigated area in Gujarat under micro irrigation. And imagine 70% water is being saved. So that's why in 2000, I was responsible 2001, 2002, that we were transporting water through road tanker and even running trains. But last 15 years, nobody has heard about water scarcity in Gujarat. So the integration, whether it's a demand, supply, sectoral usage, water use efficiency. I'll pose one very a small query. Kindly think over that in urban area, on which activity maximum water is utilized. Kindly think over it. Which activity we utilize maximum water in urban area? Second question is that how much water we basically retrieve, treat and retrieve. Allow me to answer it. On drinking, 2-3 liter per person per day. On cooking, 4-5-6-7 liter. On bathing, washing, this thing. I'm sorry to say, to dispose of our 300 to 400 gram fecal matter, we keep on pouring water and water and water and transport it for 10, 20, 30 kilometers away from the city. This 100+ year used old technology, or if this sewer system was developed in Indus Valley civilization. This sewer system, most inefficient technology, 300 gram excreta, we transport it out of city by using more than 100 liter of water. And then we treat it, we don't treat it and release it. How much water we retrieve? Just for a moment, you think that in aeroplane, same excreta can be collected by using 100 ml of water. Imagine a huge tower is being constructed. Why it can't become a zero discharge? That your and my excreta is collected. In one day, hardly use 2-3 liter of water. It should be disinfected. This odor or bad smell is removed. It put into combustion, produce gas, convert into electricity. Whatever dry residue is there, you just take it away. And 30 to 40 liter, maximum 50 liter per person per day water will be required. And more importantly, 90% of that water means from kitchen and bathing and other, this water can be collected, treated in detergent and soap and this thing, and used for secondary, tertiary use in garden and this thing. Imagine the water use efficiency, how it can be promoted. I hope, and I think we are working on that Ministry of Jal Shakti will be focusing on such matters, agriculture, fecal, matter disposal, river pollution, rejuvenation of river. These are the areas, where this ministry is working. And I think we have seen in Namami Ganga that some good result has come. And we have got inspired that 6 rivers more have been taken up. And similarly, interbasin transfer are being taken up.
So from that perspective, in fact, since you're talking about water use efficiency, but water use efficiency by itself cannot be the function of one ministry only, Ministry of Jal Shakti. More so because I give you an example. Minimum support price regime. Now, there was a paper, in fact, we published that in 2009, that the entire Kaveri conflict is an outcome of rising paddy prices vis-a-vis ragi prices, the minimum support prices. And that actually shifted the entire cropping pattern from ragi to paddy, which consumes 10 times more water than ragi. Now, in fact, if suppose the MSP regime is changed somehow, because the CACP actually gave some late signals way back in 2018-19, and they increased the minimum support prices of ragi by 55%, rabi ragi by 55%, but that of paddy by barely 5%. So it is not that, this is not that the MOJs actually has talked to them at that point in time. MOJs was not formed. Is it that the formation of MOJs led to better synchronization between ministries as well? Because on the other hand, you have the farm input. Suppose say, you have to, are you providing those types of subsidized farm inputs as well, which is promoting the consumption of highly water consuming crops? So now these are also some of the questions. So it's only an integration of 3 ministries together or 3 departments. But what has happened to other ministries?
See, it is a very valid issue at policy level. I think one of the most challenging part of the governance, water governance in the country. And especially in democratic society, I think we all are aware the various section of society, the kind of push, pull, and other factor plays role. But I think what I have seen that a sincere effort is being made, that all sectors should be talking to each other. If rivers basically originate from forests, it means Ministry of Environment, Forest and Jal Shakti Ministry have to talk. If urban areas are creating maximum solid or liquid waste, it means water body is to be provided. It means these two ministries have to talk about this thing. If use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides are polluting our water bodies, it means Ministry of Environment, Forest and Ministry of Jal Shakti, they have to talk. You'll be happy to note that our present Jal Shakti minister, before taking charge as a cabinet minister here, he was a minister in Ministry of Agriculture. And my interaction has shown that one of the finest minds, Mr. Shekhawat, Gajen Singh Shekhawat. So I think that thinking has come. Second part is that it requires, MSP is one instrument, but it requires massive information, education, and awareness campaign. That farmers need to be educated, informed, the pricing. Tell me how many of us know that in India, when we export 1 kg of basmati rice, essentially, this is the way of looking at it, we are exporting 1800 liters of water. 1800 liters of water we export when we export 1 kg of rice. So I think this understanding has to go. And effort has been, I think you have seen that Prime Minister, such an excellent communicator, everywhere, wherever he's going, what he's saying, per drop, more crop. Very simple slogan, per drop, more crop. What does it mean? That farmers are being taught that minimum use of water, but grow maximum crop, maximum productivity. Pricing mechanism, as you rightly said, that I think it is being done. Moreover, advance information to farmers that in this season, this year, X or Y or Z crop is going to be beneficial, this kind of marketing and this kind of, this thing. Those information are being made available. Similarly, to make their life better, a number of steps have been taken so that efficiency comes in agriculture, whether it's a direct transfer of money to farmers or basically providing fertilizers in a way that it cannot be diverted to some other usage. Other, let's say, silo and marketing and other things, that is being done. So limited point I'm trying to make is that in this government, all sectoral ministries are talking to each other. There is a convergence of ideas, and above all, the heavy use of technology, that forecasting should be done so that farmers can decide that which crop which is going to fetch better prices is used.
Let me now come to the last and possibly a bit contentious issue. That is, ministries might be talking to each other, but water is a state subject. So how is it that the center and state are communicating with each other?
You have seen that in January 2015, Niti Aayog was formed. And the whole concept is that Honorable Prime Minister has promoted cooperative federalism. What does it mean basically? More and more money, the subject which are allotted to, as per Constitution, the subject which are with the state government, maximum money is being given to states basically. So repeated Finance Commission to Finance Commission, you have seen that from 32%, 42% or 41%, fund is going to states. Number one, that part has been done. And second, I think we have to understand in democracy, one beauty I have seen at whatever my experience has been, that end of the day, if any idea is good and it benefits people, every political party and politician come together. End of the day, they will come to, And I have seen that like recently in Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, Ken Betwa, interlinking project, this agreement has been signed and they have started. Similarly in Gujarat and Maharashtra. So I think Similarly, work is going on between Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. So what I have observed, like Jal Jeevan Mission, every state, there is not a single state which is not on board. Every state, because the idea is so great that every household should have clean tap water, supply. Nobody can afford to oppose it. And I think this is the beauty of democracy, that idea has to be powerful, and each and every state it has to come. Of course, political leaders have to navigate it, they have to discuss it, they have to debate it, and they have to think, which is being done at different levels. So what I have seen that this cooperative federalism in India, basically in developmental field, is working nicely. Imagine many states and center, everybody has surrenders their power. When GST was launched, voluntarily they gave away their power. So it means cooperative federalism is working when it comes to these critical issues.
Okay, so I think, do we have time for 2 questions from the audience? Or I think we can take one maybe. Yeah, Uttam, I think you can go ahead.
Adding to the cooperative federalism is also the fact that there is consultative federalism. There's a lot of consultation going on between, and that's how ideas work, I think, through consultation.
Sir, I fully agree, and just take 1 minute to share. When Jal Jeevan Mission was launched, can you believe it? It was announced on 15th August 2019, and final guidelines were formalized by 25th December 2019. We took 4.5 months, and I personally, in every state, all NGOs, we went there in state government, workshop, seminar, consultation, and each and every suggestion was duly considered. And then the guideline was final. So let's not go by paper and statement and all those things. I think this consultative process between center and state, or union and state, is really very effective and strong, and it always takes place. There's hardly any scheme where consultation doesn't take place. And I support your view that is one of the key for success.
Ma'am, would you like to go ahead if it is a very small one?
Well, thank you so much. It's just a request, given that I do work on India-Nepal relations very closely, that can we consider both for India-Nepal, India-Bangladesh border, and especially the border communities, that we can do some pilot even mission, at the level, some case study to really demonstrate their cooperation, collaboration, and capacity building for the border communities.
See, you must have observed that India, whatever we learn, whatever knowledge or skills we develop, we always share with everybody. And I think it will be a huge privilege to share with. So if in any area, in any neighboring country or anywhere, then it should be done, that some lessons we can learn from this program, this project. And if you want to apply in these areas, I think whatever help is required, whatever assistance is required at our end, whatever learning we have, this thing will be too happy to share, basically. I fully, we'll be too happy to share our learning,
Great.
Whatever, is
Great.
there,
I
we'll be
think
too happy.
every good thing has to end, and it's time that we close this session as well. So thanks to Mr. Lal. In fact, I especially like the point on federalism coming up, and cooperative federalism, and what you mentioned about consultative federalism. In fact, in certain cases, our Professor Nishat and our Bangladesh colleagues might say that water is also subjected to conflictual federalism when you look at TISTA. So we cannot really avoid that. But in any case, I presume this has been a very interesting session, very informative as well, especially, full of facts and figures on where we stand. There are issues which need to be flagged. Water, of course, cannot be looked at in silos. It needs an integrated approach. We have to have the MOEF, because there are, in fact, Ministry of Water Resources, even prior to the MOJs, they have been talking about getting into doing e-flows assessments all across. So across all the river basins. And definitely these economic instruments need to be considered. they become extremely important in water resource governance as a whole. So thanks a ton for this particular session, and thanks to Asian Confluence and the hosts.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. We want to thank Shri Bharat Lal and Dr. Nilanjan Ghosh for this wonderful session. But just kindly bear with us for 2 minutes. May I invite Professor Sara Hilali of Asian Confluence to kindly come up to felicitate our two distinguished panel members. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, sirs. We next move on to another very, very interesting session. We're running short of time. I request the volunteers to kindly put up one more chair and one more table. In the next session, which is on developing riverine trade and livelihood, Sir Nilanjan and Shri Bharat Lalji, can we just request you to come back once again in front of the stage for a group photograph? Ma'am, you can also join us. Yeah, I know. Actually, as the organizers, we are always running with the clock against time. So, yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Sorry for... next, we have a very interesting panel, which is on developing riverine trade and livelihood.